credit crunch dealt a hammer blow for companies internationally and in the Emirates. But the truth is, under the radar, many companies in the UAE survived and even thrived. So what sets apart the two? The winners from the losers, those who sink from those who swim. Find out the answers in a brand new book by Dubai-based journalist and broadcaster Richard Dean. Richard, the title of the book is Sink or Swim: How to Stay Afloat in Tough Economic Times. Tell me, why did you want to write this book?
I guess the short answer is I didn't want to write this book. I got the idea for the book in, I guess, February, March 2009, when the credit crunch was really kind of squeezing Dubai and it was all just starting. And the idea was, write a book that would be a kind of survival manual. This is what you have to do, the steps to take to survive the downturn. Do this now and you'll be okay. And I kind of spoke to a few people I knew who were business leaders, and they kind of looked at me going, that's not a very good idea, because you can't really do a great deal. The answer they gave me was, what you do, how you react, is kind of only 20–30% of the story. The most important thing is to have a strong, sustainable business in the first place. So I thought, well, hang on a minute. That is perhaps the more interesting book, not what are the short-term measures, the kind of emergency steps you can take, because they don't really help. How do you build a strong, sustainable business in the first place? And that's how I came to the book Sink or Swim in its current format, purely by accident.
Well, tell me, what is the secret? What does separate those who sink and those who swim?
There's a whole bunch of stuff, but through the research and the statistical research and the case studies, I guess the one word that keeps coming back is discipline. And it's something that Mahendra Patel, one of the guys I feature in the book, mentioned many, many times. You've got to have discipline in a couple of different ways. You've got to have discipline in money, in how you handle cash. You've got to have discipline in how you handle operations. And you've got to have discipline in how you expand. And I guess a more overarching way of looking at it is you need personal discipline. You've got to resist the temptation for taking those big risks, or resist the temptation for excessive, lavish personal rewards. And I'll give you an example. One of the guys in the book, one of the profiles of a company that sank, is a guy called Mike Revson. Now, Mike's an English guy, and he came to Dubai in 2005 to work in real estate, and he was good. He was very good. He set up a brokerage, built it up into $1 million business. He was a dollar millionaire in 2008. And he'd done that by being good, by working hard, by being smart, by doing deals. But he lost every penny, because rather than having the discipline to stick with those profits and being a happy millionaire, he wanted to be a billionaire. He didn't just want the nice apartment and the fancy car, he wanted the yacht and the private jet. So he took massive risks. And it all went horribly wrong, and he's now back in the UK and he lost that money. Not because he isn't any good, he is good, he worked hard, he's very bright, but didn't have the discipline. And I'd say if there's one thing that I took away from this book, you've got to have discipline.
Now, it's really quite simple, isn't it? Because the companies with good products and services will survive, arguably those without will not.
You know, I'd have thought that having a good product, good service is the key to surviving. But it didn't really turn out that way. And we did a bunch of research. We surveyed 100 or so business leaders. And we asked them how important was having a unique product or service in surviving the credit crunch. And actually it came very, very low. And if you think about the companies that I profiled in the book, the successful ones, HSBC, Successful International Bank, does it have particularly good credit cards? Do its investment bankers have the best MBAs? No, they don't. It's just a bank. Better Homes, again, one of the real estate companies that survived the downturn, it's just a real estate broker. It charges commission on sales, commission on leases. They don't have unique products or services. They just do what they do very well with discipline, and they do it consistently. They have the processes, they have the people. So no, unique products or service, it ain't what you do, it's the way that you do it.
Well, that's all good common sense, but it's hardly revolutionary thinking, is it? Surely you can understand that the libraries are full of books telling us how to run good, successful companies.
You're dead right, Rebecca. It's not rocket science. And in fact, and I mentioned in the introduction to the book, this book could have been written 400 years ago after the tulip mania, the Dutch tulip mania, or the South Sea bubble, or the stock market crash in the roaring 20s, or even the dot-com bubble. These lessons are kind of enduring. But if it was so obvious, why did so many people make these mistakes? So yes, it may seem obvious now after the fact, but I think we need to hammer these messages home. And I guess the other thing is, you're right, the libraries are full of these books. And I've read a whole bunch of them, Jim Collins' Good to Great. And they're all good books. But most of them are about business internationally, about Europe or Asia, or particularly North America. And that's fine, but we live in the UAE and we work in the UAE. And the research for the book was carried out in the UAE. It was UAE business leaders. The case studies are companies either based in the UAE or the UAE and Gulf operations of multinational companies. And that hasn't really been done before. So hopefully that gives it makes it relevant, it makes it stand out just a little bit rather than another management book.
Now, it looks like we're coming out of recession and entering another growth phase in the economic cycle. So what advice would you give to leaders at this time?
Yeah, I mean, it's not for me to tell Mohammed Alabar how to run MR Properties. But I guess there's a few things you have to do. And I came up with something called the Strong Sustainable Business Model, MODEL. You need to watch money, operations, you need to have discipline, you need to watch expansion and only expand in the right areas. And the final thing, L, is you need to be on the lookout. You've got to see where the opportunities are coming, but also where the threats are coming. I think back in 2007 and 2008 here in the Emirates, we just thought that the party was never going to stop, that the good times would last forever. But we know from history that they never do. There are business cycles. This recession was by no means the worst that the UAE has seen. We've had oil price crash in the 80s, we had oil price crash in the 90s, we had the bursting of the dot-com bubble. There have been downturns before, more severe than this, and they always come around and you always bounce back, but you've got to position yourself for those. So the L bit of the model, look out, be on the lookout and see what's happening and have your eyes open. These are the kind of things. They were relevant 10, 15, 100 years ago, and they're very relevant today. As we come out of recession and as growth begins again, don't forget the lessons that we've learned.
Richard Dean, author of Sink or Swim, thank you so much.
Rebecca, thank you.